demise of car production in the UK, the loss of thousands of jobs, and increased dumping of old vehicles. Even more jobs will go when most of Britain's health shops close due to the imposition of the Herbal Medicines Products Directive that outlaws thousands of perfectly safe herbal remedies. Britain, with millions of its citizens using alternative medicines, will be most affected within the EU. The CBI estimates that 160,000 jobs will be lost when the new EU employment laws affecting temporary workers are implemented, again having been decided by qualified majority voting. At Maastricht, in 1992, Britain signed away its right to control its borders and immigration. Today's flood of immigrants creates a new city the size of Cambridge every 6 months. Under EU management, immigration in the UK is out of control, and that's a fact. In Britain, we can vote for slightly less than 14% of the people within the EU governmental structure making those laws. When the EU is enlarged, we should be able to vote for slightly less than 10%. And all the people working within that structure, including the civil servants, bureaucrats, and the newly formed Euro Police, have a lifetime's immunity from prosecution for acts or deeds carried out while they work for the EU. Their offices, buildings, records and files cannot be seized, searched or entered. They are above the law. We have arrived at this perilous state of affairs only because British politicians have given away control of our lives to Brussels by signing 5 treaties. Just a few of the many areas of control that have been given away are shown on this historical list. Edward Heath signed the Treaty of Rome in 1972, giving the EU control of our farming and our fishing, as well as relinquishing our sovereignty to Brussels. In 1986, Margaret Thatcher signed the Single European Act, extending EU control into more than just trade and accepting increased qualified majority voting, which meant that Britain could no longer always say no to Brussels. John Major agreed to the Maastricht Treaty in 1992 and gave the EU the right to call us its citizens, to override our courts and laws, to control our transport systems, to break up our country into regions, and to create an EU army. In May 1999, Tony Blair signed the Consolidated Treaty in Amsterdam, allowing a European federal police force to have jurisdiction over us, giving Brussels the right to prevent freedom of speech, to stop the British government giving assistance to us, and to begin harmonising and introducing taxes in Britain. The Nice Treaty was signed in December 2000 by Blair, giving the EU the right to ban political parties, to introduce a federal prosecution service, to withhold our human rights, and to relinquish even more areas from the protection of the national veto. Over 3 decades, the EU, aided by Tory and Labour governments and successive elected parliaments, has relentlessly drained power away from the British nation, power that was not in the gift of the politicians to relinquish. And now the EU is creating a new constitution for itself, taking the last vestiges of sovereignty from us. But first, it needs several more powers in place. The regionalisation programme, which I've already mentioned, is one, and equally important is the European arrest warrant affecting extradition procedures. Here again, you decide whether this is an improvement to law enforcement or is something else taking place. Formerly, the extradition process in Britain worked like this. A warrant issued by a foreign magistrate or judge for the arrest of a person in Britain could only be executed in Britain if a British magistrate heard evidence implicating the suspect, confirmed the offence on the warrant was an offence in Britain, and was satisfied the warrant had been properly obtained. A British police officer could then arrest the suspect, who was still entitled to appeal against his arrest and deportation. This procedure, based on long-established British safeguards derived from Magna Carta and common law, was weakened by the 1989 Extradition Act, Britain's compliance with the European Convention on Extradition. EU and British politicians have highlighted the events of the 11th of September 2001 in America as a requirement for a speedier form of cross-border arrest to better deal with what they describe as international terrorism. The European arrest warrant, they say, meets this need. This is what it will mean. As before, a British citizen can be arrested in Britain for an offence committed in another country, but after that, the procedure will be entirely different. There will be no scrutiny by a British magistrate before the arrest. The offence on the warrant need not be an offence under British law. The arrested person need not see the warrant. The person making the arrest need not have the warrant. There need not be a warrant as long as the arresting officer believes that a warrant has been or will be issued. The arrest can be by an appropriate person, as yet undefined, not just a British police officer, and probably a foreign or federal police officer. Of the 32 extraditable offences for which a warrant can be issued, only 2 refer to terrorism. 5 are not offences in this country. The warrant may also be used for all offences punishable with at least 12 months imprisonment, including conduct not illegal in Britain. 99% of the offences covered by the European arrest warrant have nothing at all to do with terrorism. For years, the Commission has been attempting to impose on Britain a continental system of justice known as corpus juris, which does not recognise habeas corpus or trial by jury. In 1999, the Lords Select Committee rejected corpus juris. Tony Blair has already accepted in principle the European arrest warrant and is now attempting to force its acceptance by our Parliament. Adoption of the European arrest warrant will destroy our British system with its unique safeguards for British people. Under the British Constitution, this is unlawful. Is the European arrest warrant a backdoor method of introducing into Britain an alien system of justice, or is it a genuine attempt to combat terrorism? One final point. Preparations by the EU to introduce a European arrest warrant began in 1999, around the time the Lords rejected corpus juris, and more than 2 years before the terrorist attacks of the 11th of September 2001. Corruption is rife in the European Union. The EU Court of Auditors, the body appointed in 1994 to ensure that the EU budget was being properly administered, have never signed off the accounts for any financial year since that date because of fraud and irregularity. In November 2002, the Court of Auditors admitted that of the £63 billion EU budget,